Hey, brother sewing and crafting family, Angela Wolf here. So excited to see you. I kind of gave you a little hint what we're doing today. Can you see it? Yeah, you know what that is. If you read the title, you know. Let me just check volume is working good. You never know about a live show. And I was so busy reading all your comments. I was like, I think I'm a minute late. Sorry about that. So great to see you all. I see a whole pile of you saying you're going to go to Houston Quilt Fest, and I will see you there. Brother will be there, and you'll be able to see the new machine. Yay! And you'll also be able to see the sergers. And today I'm going to talk about the blind hem with the sewing machine and the blind hem with the serger. Two totally different things, but they both accomplish the same thing. So, great to see you all. Great to see you all. I'm just going to double check. You've got the volume? We good on volume? My battery's good. It says green. Nice to see you, Faye. So just a couple of funnies for you. Today we're focusing on using the blind hem for the sewing machine and the blind hem in the serger. Oh, good. You already tell me there's good volume. So a quick question for you. Did you know that you can actually do a blind hem, just like you see in a store on a nice pair of pants, with a serger? Not only does it do the blind hem, it finishes the edges all in one step. I had somebody tell me one time, that's really scary because I don't want to cut my pants. Well, I don't want you to cut your pants either. So I'm going to show you a few tips how to do this. I'm just going to use a basic piece of cotton fabric so you can see the stitches really well. I'm using a contrasting thread for both. So let's get started. I'd love to know in the comments though. Let me know, have you ever tried doing a blind hem with the serger? And in the meantime, I'm going to go show you how to do it on a sewing machine. So depending on what brother machine you have, I can probably guarantee that, well, I'm not going to say 100% because like the PQ 1500, the PQ 1600, that's a straight stitch machine. That does not have a blind hem stitch. So I'll show you, I'm going to be using the Luminaire, but it doesn't matter what model you have. I'll bet you'll find, unless you're using a straight stitch brother machine, you'll find this stitch on there. And then I also use a different foot. So I'm going to head on over there. Oh, Helen says never on a serger. Never? Oh my gosh, you guys. Oh, this is going to be a lot of fun then. I love it when I can teach you something new. So welcome, welcome. Say hi. I'm going to take you on over here to the feet. Everyone's saying they've never tried it. Wow. So this is going to be a really, really fun lesson. So we'll do the one you've done before. And maybe there's some new people here that have never done it on a sewing machine either. So, all right, come on over. Let's see what we got. So there are two different feet I have here. This one is for the sewing machine. Bring you here. Turn it on the back. You can see this little metal piece here. That comes in handy because that will be guiding your fabric. And there's also a metal piece that goes through the center. If you look closely, I'm going the wrong way, sorry. Where it will go back and forth. You know what? I'm going to put it on this fabric here. You might be able to see it a little better. You never can tell how light or unlit these are. So let me brighten you up a little bit. Maybe. There you go. Okay. This one's for a serger. We'll talk about this one in a minute. This one's for the sewing machine. This is the one that has the little metal section right through here. And your needle will go over it, which you'll see on the machine. And on the back side, this is that little lever I was trying to show you. So I think this is called the R foot, at least in the Luminaire case. But check your box or your bag, depending on what machine you have. And this is the foot that you're going to want to use. So before we go to the machine, and I'll show you, there's a couple stitches you can choose from to do this. First, you have to prep your fabric. All right, so I'm going to take you back out this way, just a little bit. First thing you have to do is mark your hem if it's on your skirt or your pants. And I'm using a cotton fabric. Now, really, ideally, if you're going to do a blind hem means the stitch is going to blend in with your fabric. Some better fabrics to use would be a tweed or a boucle or anything. This will probably show your stitch a little bit. Now, you could do decorative stitches. If you've ever heard of the ladder stitch, that would be good on here. So first you press up your hem, and I use my clapper to give it a nice crease. And prepping your hem before you sew it is probably more important than sewing it. So there's my crease. Okay, now when it comes to how to put this in the machine, I'm going to show it to you here, and then we'll do it back over at the machine. So even if this was an entire circle, just like a full hem, right? I left a piece open just so you can see it. But just picture this is your hem. You take this fabric and you flip it back. That's it. Flip it back. Now, if you were doing this for a garment or something, this raw edge right here, I would totally run through the serger or use pinking shears so you have a nice edge right there. Or you can use the overcast stitch on your sewing machine, but you'd want to finish that edge. For this project, I'm not going to do that. I'm showing you the blind hem. So there's my hem pressed up once, and you literally just take it and fold it back just once. So if I turn this towards you, and you were going to imagine this is going to go through the sewing machine, you have one layer here, and you have your folded layer here. Okay? So there's the right side of the fabric. You fold this back. This is the wrong side of the fabric. Here's the fold, and here's the bottom edge of your hem. Okay? So it's an easy flipperoo. Press up and flip. It's as easy as that. And then this will be the part that goes to the machine. So if I give you a little closer look here, bring you a little closer. I'll bring my foot back down here. I like to show it here first, and then I'll show you on the machine. So if this is my sewing machine, here's my foot. This metal edge right here is going to line up with that folded edge. Just like this, okay? It's like a choo-choo train, but not really. So that edge, and I'm not even doing anything except sliding the foot, because of that metal edge right here, it will line right up against that fold. So here's the key. When we're picking the stitch width will really determine how wide of a stitch that you have. So you have to imagine that your needle is going to go from that side to this side. So you're stitching basically from this piece of fabric here to the edge of the fold, back to this piece and the edge of the fold. So you're going back and forth. The further your stitch is in this way, the bigger your stitch is going to show on the right side of the fabric. So for a blind hem that you really don't want to see, you would want to have a very, I always practice a little bit, but you'd want it to stitch on this piece and then just barely the edge of this fold. So for this lesson, I'm going to show you it a little bit wider so you can see what I'm talking about, but that's what we have so far. So I'll pop over here, see if you have any questions, and let's go to the machine. Because that's pretty easy. That's pretty easy, right? All right. Oops, wrong one. I'm trying to take it to the machine. Hey, Cindy. Helen wants to know, how far do you fold back? That is a great question. So it depends on your hem, really, Helen. So if you have this folded up as your hem and you fold it back, I want to have just enough fabric that the edge of my foot will land on that bottom piece of fabric. So if you have a 2-inch hem, you're going to fold back different than if you have a 1-inch hem. So it totally depends on your hem, but you want it folded back enough that this foot can fit on there, which you'll see when I go to the machine. Because if you have it too little of a fold, what happens is you're not going to be able to stitch on that bottom layer. Does that make sense? Now, when it comes to the serger, you have a little more flexibility because you're cutting and finishing that edge all in one step. Yeah. All right, more of you are popping in. It's so great to see you all. Great to see you. Drop your questions. I am really live today. Oh, Denise, that sounds fabulous. Barb, no. Your serger's still in the box? You got to pull that thing out. Now, Barb, did you get the airflow serger? Because if it is, you want to register on Brother's site because you actually get free serging lessons, 14 full classes with great projects. So if you got that one, you definitely want to get it out of the box. Everyone's saying they've never tried it on a serger. All right. Well, let's head to the sewing machine and let's do this one. All right. So first, let's talk about the stitches that you choose and how to find them. So I'm on the Luminaire. If you're on a different Brother machine, just check your manual, or if you know how to get to your stitches. So for this, I'm going to go to number 2, and I'll bring you up a little bit closer here. Click on number 2. And there are quite a few stitches in here if you've never played with these. But when I click on 2-01, it tells me right at the top, blind hem stitch. Can you see that? Bring it up a little closer. Blind hem stitch. It shows me a picture of it here, and it also tells me I need to use foot number R, letter R. Okay, that's one, but the one next to it is also a blind hem. It's for stretch. Well, it says stitch stretch, but it's for stretchy fabrics. So see how this has the little V's on it, which means if I stretch the fabric, it won't pull the stitches out. Did any of you watch my knits sessions last week on Sewing Machines Plus? I did 3 of them, and all 3 were talking about sewing knits using stretch fabrics. So this blind hem could be used on a stretch fabric. So I'm not on a stretch fabric. I'm going to go back here to 201. And then the other thing that I mentioned to you, which I'll be touching on the screen, but you won't be able to see, is down here. You can change the length, and you can also change the width. So when I change the width, if you look right up here, that's as wide as it'll go. And as I go like this, do you see this getting smaller in width right here? That's how you will adjust. So this triangle part here is the part that will hit the folded edge. This part here will be on that bottom piece of fabric that I showed you. Make sense? And then you can adjust your stitch length as well. And like I said, I usually try to practice before I do this, especially if I have my own fabric. If I'm doing it on something I already own, it's a little hard to practice, but you can try to find fabric that's similar. All right, so let me just bring this back to the standard stitch without changing anything. Here's my foot. Pops into place. Again, I'll show you that little fold. There's my hem. And like Helen said, how far do you turn it back? Well, you want it back far enough that that stitch I showed you that will end up right here on the foot will end up on this fabric. So just practice a couple times. If you fold it, well, to give you what you don't want to do, you don't want to fold it like that far because there's hardly any room for the bottom stitch to stay there. So I like to give myself anywhere from 1/4 of an inch to 3/8 to 1/2 of an inch, 1/4 to 1/2 inch. That's pretty safe. All right, so I'm going to slide this down, and I can feel where that metal piece is right against that fold. All right, now I'm going to slide you over just a little bit, bring you to the other side. I know, what a great cameraman, right? That was a joke. Speaking of cameramen, Wynn said, thank you for all the birthday wishes. You guys are awesome. So if I watch closely, I'm going to use the hand wheel, and I'm going right down inside there. It'll go to the left. Is that close enough? It's going to the left and then to the right. Then it's going to stay on the right-hand side, which you can see. I like to line up the edge of this fold here, just about with the edge of the fabric. Plus, it helps the feed dogs to feed it through faster, or better, I should say. All right. And then to the left. Now, I can see that I'm just barely capturing the fold. So I'm going to make my width a little bigger. And let's see. I'm going to make it really big, just so you can see this. It's capturing the fold, and it's coming back. So after I use the hand wheel to make sure that everything's working right, I'm not breaking any needles, you'll stitch. You probably want to go at a little bit slower speed because your job, you do have a job here, and that is to keep that folded edge up against that section right here. All right, so I went part the way down, and I'll show you what this looks like with the full width so you can see what that looks like. Now I'm going to change right here. Let's see if I have a pin or something. Well, you'll notice halfway down, I'm changing this. If you look at my whole fabric, I'm halfway. I'm going to change the width to narrow now, where you really aren't supposed to see the hem very much. And then I'll go just a little narrower. It's just barely capturing that fold. So this is what it looks like on my fabric. Just like this. And then when you fold this out, that's what it looks like on the wrong side. And this is what it looks like on the right side. So I'll take you over to the ironing board. I think you'll see it better. And you'll see where I talked about where it was falling off a little bit and where it got more and a little bit less. All right, back over here. Drop your questions in because I can see them. So again, this is where the fold is. This is how we sewed it. So this is still with it folded. You can see what it looks like. That little point just barely captures that fold. When I fold this out, this is still the wrong side of the fabric. This is what it looks like. And then this is the right side of the fabric. I'm going to give it a little pressing. This is what you would really do with your hem too. You'd want to press it when you're finished. So let's take a look. I'm going to bring you a little bit closer here. Whoa, really close. This is where we started. So you can see that captured quite a bit of that fold, and that's why you can see all of these stitches here. And then halfway through, we made it a little bit smaller, which is right here. And then I made it even smaller, which is just barely, you can't see it. That's what you call a blind hem. And then this is where it captured a lot. So here's the thing, is if you really wanted to do a blind hem, this is too wide. Now this was the widest setting on the machine. So again, that's why you would practice. And then it got smaller. It went down to just about nothing, which is called what you call a blind hem. So again, I chose a fabric like this so you could see all of this, but ideally you would be using a fabric like a boucle, or maybe, well, gosh, I'm trying to think of some words for some great fabrics. The ones that don't always work for this stitch is something like a satin, the 100% cotton like this. You'll be able to see that. But if you have a nice pair of trousers, a nice skirt that's maybe out of, okay, a tweed. Let's chat about a couple of these for a minute. A boucle, which is pretty thick, so you might not probably want a boucle. My mind is going blank. Wool would be a great one. A wool crepe would be a great one. Anything that has just a little bit of texture, because then you won't see that little stitch in there. You know what I mean? Help me out. What other great fabrics can you think of that would be great for this? Oh, I've even done it on fleece, because you could just barely see that stitch on fleece, but the fleece was furry. So I just brushed it, like not literally brushed it, but brushed with my hand, and it filled in those stitches. Oh, thanks, Debbie. Definitely. Oh, and I'm going to show you how to keep track of your notes too here in just a second. Yeah, this is super easy. Patty says, Barb, get it out of the box. It won't bite. You can do this. So Cindy, yes, you can adjust how much length is in between each stitch, which, you know, you really want to adjust the width and the length just like you would on any other fabric. So if you have a fabric that's, I don't know, the thicker your fabric, usually you have a little bit longer stitch length, you want to do that as well. Yeah. So you want to practice for sure. And if it's too narrow, then you got all these itty bitty stitches. And if it's too far apart, what happens? Your hem rips out. Oh, Sandra, you missed the fold. So remember, Sandra, keep the fold wide enough that it's on the edge of your foot, and then you'll always be safe. You'll always be safe. And it doesn't matter if it's right to the very edge. It's a hem. Once you press it up, it's there and you're golden. Yeah. All right. Oh, someone said, how can you watch this? Well, because you can watch it. We're live right now, and when it's over, you can go back on Facebook. If you're on Facebook, share it to your Facebook page, and don't forget to follow Brother Sews. And if you're on YouTube, subscribe, and you can go back there and watch anytime. All right, Lynn, one more question here, and then we're going to go to the serger and do this on a serger. Can you do this on a stretch knit fabric? Yes, you can, Lynn. Did you see the stitch I just chose? The one next to it. There was the regular stitch and the stretch one. Hey, Julianne. All right, it looks like you guys have it. So I'll go back and show her those 2 stitches one more time, and then we're going to go and do this on a serger. Okay. Oops, come on back over. Cameraman is working hard today. Don't get seasick. Here you go. This is the stitch for the blind hem, and that's the stitch for the blind hem with a stretch. It looks totally different. All right. Now let's go to the serger. But before we do, I want to know in the comments how many have the airflow serger, the airflow serger from Brother that came out a couple years ago, that we did a fantastic, one of my favorite master classes, because it's like 14 weeks of serging with Kathy Stipe and Kathy Gandy and myself. They showed some things, and I call myself a serger queen because I just love it. But those two are geniuses. They did serging with beads. They did serging with, just beautiful threads. The 2-thread overlock, things that you probably never knew your serger could do. So make sure you register your machine, because you get access to that class for free. And those lessons are priceless. Yeah, priceless. Okay, so now let me show you something that we did in that class, and also what you can do yourself. And I've been doing this for years. So I've been teaching serging classes. I recognize some of you in here from way back in the old days on the Craftsy classes. And then I also recognize some of you from the classes on my website. So you love to serge and you love to learn. But how do you remember all of these stitches? So this is my good old, my serging book with my name. This is what I had in class. And this is what you can download in the airflow class too, but you can put your name in there. So this is what it looks like. And you can do this. You should do this for your sewing stitches, for your decorative stitches, anything like that. So what I have here, and I had the same form. I actually filled it in using, just typing it in. But you can handwrite it as well. So on here, for the serging, it tells me my stitch, what it would be good for, and it tells me all of my settings, what foot, and some extra notes. And then on the back side, I throw in there a piece of the fabric. Now, what does that look like? Very similar to what we just did, but it's different. It's not the same. But this is what we call a ladder stitch. And this was done with the flat lock. Totally different. So each one of these, I have the same thing. The stitches laid out, a sample. So you might want to do that. And if you're in that airflow serger class or any of my other online classes where I have a book like this, you want to print it off and fill it out. So here, oh, there's my pin tuck. I love pin tucking on the serger. Faux piping, oh yeah, that's a good one. Have you ever seen a faux piping on a serger? Check this out. Isn't that beautiful? It's basically a fold of fabric, so it looks like a seam, but it's really not a seam. Oh, we've got gathering, more gathering, lettuce edge, and then I go into cover stitch and chain stitch, elastic, you name it. All right, but today we're going to do blind hem. So I just had the blind hem foot. What did I do with it? Oh no, here we go again. It's right here. So this blind hem foot looks a little different than the one on the sewing machine. So this knob right here turns. And as I turn this knob, this plastic section goes this way or that way. So if you recall that fold that we were just talking about, the fold for this will line up right here on the back of that plastic, right here. And what's that plastic there for? Because your knife is going to be over here, cutting and finishing the edge of your fabric, and your fold will be up right here, making sure that it doesn't get cut. So you're doing the same thing, stitching on this side, but on the serger, it's stitching and finishing that edge, and a stitch is coming over here to the fold. So it's the exact same process except a little more technical. And then here's my blind hem settings. So on here, you can see I'm using a 3-thread overlock with the left needle, not the right. These are my stitch width, length. So I'll read these off for you, just for your notes. Stitch width, 5. Stitch length, anywhere from 3 to 4. Right needle is removed. You're going to use the left needle and you're going to lower the tension. Okay, that's a big one. The upper looper, you're increasing the tension. And the lower looper, you're decreasing the tension. So I know when it comes to touching those dials, people freak out, but don't worry, they can all go back. So 4 on the machine is standard. So if you're like, oh my gosh, I really screwed this up, you didn't. It can go back. And I have notes for myself, use a blind hem foot. I have a note, excellent for hemming. Well, no kidding. I must have really needed some coffee that day. And I also put tension listed for sergers, standard at 4. So you can adjust your settings. Now, where did I get these? I didn't make these up in my head. They're in the manual. So whatever brother serger you have, I have one that goes all the way back to like one of their very beginning ones. And this is in their manual. Yeah, so I didn't make this up myself. And this is what it's going to look like. So this is where I have the needle tension a little bit wider so you could see it. And then the back side is all serged. And look, it's completely attached. So this one does take practice because if you want a blind hem, you really don't want to see those stitches. Now, also, I've done this where I made the stitch really wide, and then you could put ribbon around it. So it's kind of a blind hem, a decorative blind hem. All right, so before we go over to the machine and the ironing board to press our fabric, I'll check in with you to see if there's any questions. Any questions? 1034DX. Yes, Barb. That's a great serger. That's a great serger. All right, anything else? Cindy, I have serging classes on my website that are basically general. I use a brother serger, obviously, in those. But the airflow one that has the 14 awesome lessons, that's the brother airflow. But if you're looking for serging classes, I've got serging 101, 102, and then cover stitch 103 if you go to angelawolf.com. Now I'm using brother stuff in there, but all sergers are pretty similar as far as the settings I'm giving you here and stuff. Oh, Patty's in the serging. It is awesome, isn't it? Yeah, that was so fun. I don't know if we had more fun behind the scenes or fun in the class. I don't know. We had a lot of laughing, right? Oh, thanks, Cherise. All right, you ready, Freddie? So, Debbie, you have another brand. You can take classes on my website, but not the airflow. The airflow is just for the airflow because it shows you everything about the airflow serger. All right, anything else? Yeah, the manual is your go-to. Let's head on over. First, let's go and press up our fabric because that is the most important. And I'll show you the foot a little closer as well. I can never tell what's easier to see, on the dark or the light. So again, here's the foot. This is the knob that you turn right here. And by the way, check your serger. If you don't have a brother and you're using a different one, your foot might look a little different. Okay, just for the record. I know there's one brand where you have to, there's a screw right here that moves this to the right and left. So you really should check your manual. I love this one though. So again, there's the plastic side. This will block the knife from your fabric. And if you look underneath here, there's the plastic edge, just like the metal edge on the sewing machine. And the fold will push against that. All right, so let's go ahead and press up the edge. And how far would you press this edge up? Well, you're hemming something. So however much you're hem. For hems, it depends. Inch. A lot of ready-to-wear will use 1 inch, but that's because they like to conserve fabric. So most of my hems for shirts or skirts are 1.5 to 2 inches. That's just my go-to, okay? And again, when you fold it back, just like the other, you want enough room that if this is too close, it's going to miss that edge. So you want to give yourself some extra room here. All right. Saw somebody saying, what the heck is that? This is the clapper. So in all tailoring, I didn't invent this. This was out like many, many, many years ago in tailoring areas. So when you press, the steam goes into the fabric, the wood sets it, and then you end up with this beautiful crease. I use this for everything. The funny story about this is the reason I have my own now is because when I was on It's So Easy TV, mine was so old because I'd been using it for about 20 years before I was on the show. And it looked really gross. And they didn't sell them anymore. So I started selling them. Now everybody has them. But you know what? You need it for a sewing room if you're going to do pressing. So here's your edge. Fold it back. And again, here's my foot, which will line up. And I'll bring you in a little closer here. So you can picture how this would be going through the machine. There's the edge right here that's going to be cut off and finished. Here's the plastic edge that is pushing up against that fold. Very easy to do. All right, now let's go to the serger. And we need to change our settings. Oops. I'm ready to take it, and I forgot to bring you over there. All right, anything else before I head over there? Oh, everybody's talking about the brother sergers that they have. I love it. 1034D. Aaron, your serger doesn't have dials? Oh, well, you might have a different brand. I think I know which one you have. You don't need to be a garment sewer for wanting a serger because it does so many decorative stitches and things like that. Thanks, Cindy. Oh, Aaron, you can say it in the chat. I just won't repeat it. You can say whatever you want to. I just won't bring it up because she's saying she's got a different brand. Okay. But everybody wants to know, so feel free to share. I just won't bring it up here. Okay, let's go back over to the airflow. If you haven't seen this serger, it is amazing. It's so easy to thread. My other brother serger, you still had a needle threader, but here you have that. So I love that because the older I get, my glasses. We'll just leave the glasses part out. So say I need glasses to thread it. All right, so I got to get my settings here. If you're totally new to serging, here you go. This is your left needle, tension, your right needle, upper looper and lower looper. I always get them mixed up. Okay, those are your tension settings. This is your width right here. And then if you look on the side over here, I'll just slide this. You have differential feed and you have stitch length. All of those things will come in handy. And now on your serger, they might be in different places. So you'll have to just check that out. All right, so the first thing I want to do is, I believe it said to take out one of my needles. And right now I'm set up for 4-thread overlock. So I'll put my needle in the up position. And Here's my little handy dandy sheet. My stitch width is 5. So I need to change this to 5. Right now I have it at 7. There's 5. So left needle, upper looper, and lower looper I need to change. The differential feed is fine. Stitch length is 3 to 4, which is pretty standard. So I need to take out my right needle. I'm just going to cut it off up here, lift this up, and then just pull these out a little bit. All right, get that needle out of there. All right, so now I have my lower looper, upper looper, and my left needle. Just pull, make sure that I only have 3 threads, which I do. And you need to take out your right needle. I'm leaving the machine on so you can see, but you would want to turn your machine off. It's always safer. Just slide this in, and my needle comes out, just like that. I'm going to save that because that's a brand new needle that I just put in there because I'm working on the top that I'm going to sew for my tomorrow live show on my page. All right, and I always like to tighten that screw back up. You don't want those falling out. So I have my left needle, and for that, the tension needs to go down. So if you look up here, it says anywhere between 0 and 2. Well, let's just round it off and do 1. Okay. Upper looper is increased between 5 and 7. Okay, again, I'm just going to average that out to 6. And then the lower tension is between 2 and 4. Let's just make it 3. And it gives you a general because depending on your fabric, your serger, all of those things, it can make a difference. All right, so now we need to put our foot in, which is pretty easy to do. Right here, slide it in place. Making sure all those threads are out of the way. All right, pretty easy. So now, I'm going to try to do this over the camera. When you slide your fabric in, if you look closely, there's the fold. Let me bring you up a little bit closer here. You see that? Okay. Here's the fold pushing up against this edge right here. And here's my excess fabric over here that's going to get cut off. So I'm just going to start stitching just a little bit. Again, you would definitely need to practice this on a piece of fabric first before you do it. So right now I can see it's capturing quite a bit of that fold. So if I want to change this, I'm going to move this plastic thing a little bit more to the left. And I'm going to go even more to the left. As I'm turning it, can you see that foot moving just a little bit? And then I'll show you what this looks like when we get to the end. And then I'm going to go right back to the right a little bit more in case I didn't capture enough. All right, that's what we have. And I'm going to head over to the ironing board and show you the rest. So you can see from beginning to end. On my way, does anybody have any questions? Any questions? Oh, the airflow is great, Jenny, but you have a good one too. The 5, 2, 3, 4. Someone's asking about the cover stitch. I have the cover stitch right next. Can you look behind me? Over there? No, other way. Over there? There's the serger, and right next to it's the cover stitch. 2 totally different machines. Okay, they don't do the same thing. I saw somebody asking that when they got confused that their cover stitch wasn't doing what my serger did. Cover stitch is totally different. We should have a lesson on that. All right, anything else? Looks like a lot of you have sergers and you love them. Okay, let's head on over to the ironing board. All right, here we go. So this is what it looks like as it went through. So this is the folded edges right here. Let's open it up. This is the back side. And on the back side, look, it's actually attached and finished the edge all in one step. Now the right side, let's go through it and see this, because remember, when we first started, I said, boy, that's taking a lot of the fold. And look at, you can see, look at how much of that stitch is showing. I'm going to give it a little pressing here. All right. I didn't mean to do that. So this right here was where we started. That's capturing a lot of the fabric. But again, I wanted to do that so you could see that's what it looks like on the right side. On the back side, it finished the edge and attached right there. My camera acting weird. Come on, focus. Back over here. All of this is attached right at the edge. All right, so here you go. This is where we started. Then remember, I made it smaller, and then I made it really small right through here, which you can just barely see. And then I made it bigger again. And just by using that adjustment on the foot, that's what I ended up with. So let me press some of that. And that's how easy that is. So there's the edge. This is the back side. And again, it attached it all in one. Isn't that cool? That has to be one of my favorite. Now, when I was designing clothes professionally for many, many years, I had a standalone, basically a standalone blind hem machine. Brother needs to make one of those. I'll tell you what, it's awesome. But it broke like 2 years ago, I think. And I had it for, oh gosh, almost 30 years. So I was like, well, I don't know if I feel like buying another one because I'm not designing hundreds of outfits every month. So I'm using the Serger to hem a lot of my pants, or that machine, the sewing machine. Both work fine. So the couple tips for you though. If you don't want to see that thread and you're using a real fine fabric, then you might want to use what they call, it's like nylon thread. It's really thin. You can't see it. It's a clear color. Usually you can pick up a clear that's almost like a whitish clear, and then also kind of a grayish clear. So if you're going to do a lot of hemming, you might want to invest in, it's not an investment, but grab some of that thread. And you can find that at most of your sewing shops. Julie, you want me to come to your house? Okay. Patty's machine is at the doctor. All right. Oh, Becky's got a lot of machines. That's pretty cool, isn't it? Super easy. You don't have to worry about cutting your thread. I mean, cutting your fabric, because you have that plastic edge right there. Monofilament thread. Thanks, Faye. That's the technical term for it. Yeah. All right. Some of you said, where can we find the schedule for the live shows? I have September updated, I think. Pretty sure I do. Go to angelawolf.com, click on calendar, and you can see that there. The Brothers Sews, they have the sewing blog, the crafting blog, a ton of videos that you can watch if you're new to this and you've missed them, or if you've missed any because of the summer, you are out having fun and boating. And any questions, you can always drop them here. Even if you're not watching live, we go back and read those. So that was your serging lesson. Tomorrow on my channel, I'm going to be sewing one of my knit tops. Kind of take off from last week of all those lessons. So if you want to watch that, head on over there tomorrow at 1:30 p.m. Eastern. And I'll be using my brother's Serger for that too. Sandra said she's never tried it on her Serger, but you should. All right, Lois, what do you got for me? Do you ever do a double fold and press it to keep the right distance from the edge? I do not. I mean, now wait a minute. There are hems that have a double folded edge. And I don't do that unless I'm folding it, like fold it once, fold it again, and then I do a nice top stitching. For a blind hem, I do not do a double fold. I do not. Now, oh, you're welcome, Faye. What I do, so you can see how this one's finished right here. I keep getting the wrong way. That way. With the Serger, it has a serged edge. It's all finished and it's all nice and hemmed. Is that what you call it? But on the sewing one, I did not serge the edge today because we're here. But if I was doing this for one of my garments or for professional, then I would have serged it first and then ran it through the sewing machine. Yeah. Hey, Angie. You're welcome. You're welcome. Okay. What I want all of you to do is try this. Try it before tomorrow, before you come to my live show, before we're doing knits, and let me know if you liked it, because I'm curious. Debbie, if you make your own leggings, you should have a serger, because have you checked the price of leggings lately? Yeah, they're pretty darn expensive, and you could make them in very, very quickly. Okay, what do you got for me? Cindy, if you do not serge the edge, do you trim it back? Okay, so let's go take a quick look at that. Oh, hey, Star, I didn't know you were here. Great to see you. Let's go back and peek. And I'll show you, because I mentioned that once your pant hem is up, so you saw that this is the sewing sample, and you saw this on here. This is what you have left, because when it was folded, and this would have been serged. So this edge would be serged. All you have is this little itsy bitsy bit here. And when you press that hem up, this will never come out. So I do not trim it down, because this edge would be serged, or I would do an overlock stitch, or I would do bias binding, something to finish this off. And no, I would not trim it back, because it's literally about maybe, I don't know, that's not very much, less than 1/4 of an inch. I don't have my ruler right here, but I'm just eyeballing it. And once this is up, if this was inside your sleeve and this edge is finished, it's not going to come back. It's not going to fold back. So if you're doing this in a sewing machine, you must finish that edge somehow. So I think that's where Lois was saying, would you fold it back so it was a nice crisp edge? If you're not going to do an overlock, or you're not going to do any of those pretty stitches we talked about to finish that edge, then this was probably like what Lois was referring to. You'd fold this back once, which this is fine. You can do this. If you're using a thin fabric, if you're using a thick fabric, this will be way too thick. So if I fold it back twice, this edge is finished. And then you would fold it back and do the same. But now you have 2 layers in there. And sometimes it can show through to the right side. So I only fold it over twice if I'm going to do a top stitching. All of these other ways, I only fold it over once. I'll bring you out just a little bit. I had folded over once, so I would either finish this edge before I sewed it and then sew it, or run it through the serger. Either way. And the reason that I say that I would not do it, fold it over once and then do the hem, when I designed clothes for, over 20 years before I started with It's So Easy and the home sewing side, all I did was ready to wear and couture garments. So how did I learn that? Studying, but then I would go to the stores and see how those clothes were finished. So what I'm showing you is how they are finished. Many of them are finished with a serger, what you saw here, but with a monofilament thread, a see-through thread. And then the others are serged at the edge and then run through a blind hem machine. So how can you do that at home? Just what I showed you, and it'll look great. And then if you're using something really thin, then you got to do it by hand, but that's really boring. Yeah. All right, any other questions? Elsa, is there a special needle to use when using nylon thread? I just use a standard universal 12. That's all I use for when I'm using that thread. Cindy, would you ever do a knit like that? Well, I have to be honest, I don't use the blind hem on knits. Yeah, full disclosure there. I mean, you could, but you can still kind of see that stitch. Now, wait, let me take that back. I'm thinking of a rayon knit like I'm wearing. If I was using a sweater knit or something like that, I would still serge the edge and then run it through with that zigzag blind hem. And that would look great, like on a boucle. In fact, I was here, like this fabric here. I have this out because my zippers have finally arrived. We're doing this in Fashion Sewing Club. I've been waiting for those darn white zippers forever, and I kept forgetting to order them. But something like this, which is a big stretch, it's like a sweater knit fabric, I would serge the edge first, fold it up, and do that hem with the zigzag, and that would look really nice. I probably would still do this with a serger, though, because it would just look nice. And because it's nubby, and those stitches would blend right in. All right, any other questions? Drop them in. Yep, a size 12. You're welcome. Barb wants to learn how to shorten blouses. So are you talking about with the cuffs, Barb? That's a really, that used to be one of my least favorite alterations to do, but it can be done and it's very easy. I do have a class on that as well. It's called tailoring. If you send me a message, I can send you a link to it. Are you going to do a class on the, oh, well, Charisse, I can do a class on that. I do have a cover stitch class on my website, which is with the, I'm looking right now. What machine do I have on there? I'd have to check. But I do virtual classes for like groups and stuff like that. So if you would like, let me know. I think that's it. Did I get everybody? Well, it's so great to see you all. Oh, the length of a blouse. Well, Barb, that's much easier than the cuffs. Yeah. So if you want to hem your blouse, it would be very similar to this. If it's a cotton blouse, though, then you'd want to fold it up twice and do a nice top stitching on it versus a blind hem. I usually try to hem it however it was hemmed in the first place. All right, so what's the schedule? Tomorrow is a live show, 1:30 on my channel, and next Tuesday, I will be back with you working on zippers. It's National Sewing Month, so you're stuck with me for 2 weeks, which is so much fun. So bring your questions. I always love to help. Our serger needles really needed for serging. Someone gave me some. So Anne, check your manual. That's all I have to say, because there are specific serger needles that go with sergers, and there are some brands that you must use a certain needle. Now, with this Brother serger, I have used stretch needles. When I'm using a knit, I've used, usually I just keep around size 12, but you really want to check your manual, because if you're using the wrong length, like some of those serger needles are different lengths. I think it's lengths, not widths, lengths. I have to get it right. So you really want to check your manual. You're welcome. You're welcome. Okay, anything else? I agree. The airflow is the best, and so is the 1634. You're welcome. It's so great to see you all. And until then, Fashion Sewing Club, I'll see you in 2 o'clock this afternoon. Don't forget, I see a lot of you here, so we get a whole full day with you. All right. Until next time, even if you're watching the replay, by the way, make sure that you pop in and leave your comments and questions and say hi, because I go back and read those. It's easier to watch them on YouTube than Facebook, but I try to check both. All right, until next time, guys, happy sewing.